I'll call the order of the Regional Transportation Commission, Washoe County Board meeting for November 16th with a roll call, please.
Neoma Jordan. Here. Von Hartung.
Present.
Mayor Smith.
Present or here. You confused me.
Gibson.
Yeah.
Lee Gibson.
Here.
Dale Ferguson.
Here.
And Bill Huffman.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Okay, if you'll all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Bill, would you lead us this morning?
Yes. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay.
We'll have to pull that item.
Okay. Okay, we have a special recognition of the RTC by the Intelligent Transportation Society of Nevada for the RTC Washoe ITS Center to Center Project, ITS 2018 Project of the Year. And presenting an award from the Intelligent Transportation Society of Nevada is Chapter President John Dickinson. Welcome, John.
Thank you. On behalf of ITS Nevada, we'd like to award Washoe County RTC Project of the Year under $2 million for the Center to Center project, which was a great project connecting all the agencies in northern Nevada on the traffic signal side. It was a great ITS project. We'd also like to present the trophy to Kimley Horn for the design and to Titan Electrical Contractors for the actual construction.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from the acceptors? You're good, Brian?
Good morning, Brian Stewart, Director of Engineering. I'd like to thank the Intelligent Transportation Society of Nevada for this award and the hard work of the team behind me, Blaine Peterson being the project manager. Awesome to be able to pull together the great team, Titan Electrical and Kimberly Horn doing the design on the project. So it's another great project, bringing our region together through data and coordination to improve our transportation system. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, we want to get a picture.
Of course.
You need a pass to get into the little space zone. Okay, let's get a picture. Hi, Brian.
Hi, buddy.
I know.
What's going on, Green Hall?
How are you? Yeah.
Well, this is a long time in the coming. This is asking.
You
Where are
guys
we
can
going?
take Lee's. Go ahead. That's a gift.
I'm kind
Have
of
his
the
name
middle.
plaque.
I had to break up all these men.
60-year-olds next to each other.
The old guy's in the back. You youngster, you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go like this?
Hey, hey, hey.
I guess it.
You better take another one because Gibson was. Again, have that as a gift. Have it as a gift. Put it on your desk.
Yeah, I like it.
Well, so this was a long time. So after our joint meeting, we started doing security evaluation.
Okay, number one, approve the agenda. Anybody want to pull any items?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Did you want to pull 3 point?
Yeah, we would like to take 3
What?
point.
3-point which?
Mr. Chairman, we'd like to have 3.15 removed from the agenda. We're going to keep working on this with NDOT and bring it back either next month or January. 3.15. 3.15 is an interlocal cooperative agreement for fiber optic communication infrastructure. There's just some things.
Okay, so you want to amend that motion?
Amend the motion to remove 3.15, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay. Public input. Anybody in the public wishing to speak at this time? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the commission. 2.2, accept the monthly summary report for the Technical Citizens Multimodal and Regional Road Impact Fee Advisory Committees. Questions or comments? Looking for a motion? We have a motion from Hartung and a second by Jordan. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. Okay, consent items. We pulled, yeah. So looking for a motion to accept the other consent items.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. Okay, we're going to move on to 4.1, RTC Executive Director Report.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, first off, a couple items here. We had 2 free transit days. We had a free transit day on we had 2 free transit days, one on Election Day, one on Veterans Day. Both days we experienced much higher ridership than average. On Election Day, ridership was up. We added 12,882 folks to our 23,000 daily ridership. That was an 8.7% increase. So very, very pleased to be able to help get people around on Election Day and also help people move around on Veterans Day. We've begun the preliminary design for the Audie Wells Improvement Project. That's been underway now for several months, and will be that project's design concept and scope includes sidewalks, bike facilities, and improvements to traffic operations. On Thursday, November 29th, we'll host a community stakeholder meeting at the Sparks Library from 5 to 7 p.m. We will provide a formal presentation at 6 p.m. If members of the public are unable to attend, we will stream the presentation live on Facebook. Information about the project is available at audiewells.com. I also want to point out, at long last, we have been working with the Reno Partnership. That's the Business Improvement District. We're going to hammer out a 3-year memorandum of understanding with them to help with the ambassador program, with the cleanliness program, and perhaps options related to some professional services concerning marketing. As I think many of you know, I'm a very strong advocate for the BID. We get that 4th Street area working well and improved physically, and I'll say it socially, from a sociology perspective. I think we can improve and dramatically increase ridership. We have almost $200 million of investment between 4th Prater, 4th Street Station itself, and the Virginia Street project. So to me, we've got to get, again, to use that term, I want to get the sociology right. So we'll be bringing that back in December. On Wednesday, December 5th, we'll have our annual food drive to benefit the Food Bank of Northern Nevada. The Stuff-A-Bus with food will not only provide our riders the opportunity to donate non-perishable food items, but the general public will also be able to participate. We'll have a bus stationed at Sam's Club, so this time it's a little bit different. We want to be able to let folks have the opportunity to maybe go buy the stuff. But we'll be at Sam's Club at the Fire Creek Shopping Center in South Reno. We will also accept food donations at our transit stations. This event is going to replace our Food for Fare program, which in recent years has been seeing declining food donations. More details will be provided on our social media channels. At your December meeting, which Denise will, I'm sure, is over there wanting to remind me, our December meeting will be on December 7th. And that is, so, and I'm looking at Stephanie Haddock, our Director of Finance and Chief Financial Officer. We have some deadlines to make with respect to some actions this commission needs to take for refunding of bonds, which will substantially increase our cash flow. And we have to have that done before, I believe it's mid-December. So December 7th is going to be our board meeting. But we will also bring the pedestrian safety initiative and work on the Vision Zero Northern Nevada Task Force and provide a report because we've been in collaboration with those folks in those agencies in the region and state to make things happen. The 4th Prater project is substantially complete. In fact, later on today, you will receive your last 4th Street Prater Way monthly report. Mr. Wilbrecht, the project manager, will be relieved of that, I'm sure. Only to be able to give more time to the Virginia Street report. But anyway, we're going to be having our grand opening on December 14th. So everybody be prepared and ready to come out. We'll be sending out more information on that. RTC offices will be closed next Thursday and Friday in observance of Thanksgiving. Now what I want to do, if I can, is spend a couple minutes on a safety issue. Many of you may recall last Saturday, RTC, the Villanova facility, experienced two fairly significant, well, I'll even use a more significant adjective, horrific accidents. The first occurred around 8 p.m. when utility workers heard a large explosion. And what happened was a car basically, and you can kind of see it to the left a little bit, came down the ramp and went flying through the fence and came through our bus wash area. And I want to say, somebody may nod their head, but I believe it came through that area at 74 miles per hour. So you can see how the ramp curves right there. And these folks the driver was DUI, apparently just didn't see the lane transition and just came flying right through there. Four people were injured. One is in very critical condition. So it was a fairly significant accident. 4 minutes later, after that first accident, another accident occurred. And again, same type of damage, tore out fence. Overall, there's been, I believe, over the last 10 years, 20 accidents in this area. Oh, one final accident, the third set of accidents. The ambulances were removing the injured. There was an accident when a car stopped to let the ambulance out and people rear-ended into the car. So 3 accidents. But anyway, we will be working with NDOT. NDOT owns the road here, and we want to look at some K-rail options and some other safety
Question for you.
safety initiatives. Question?
So, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Director, was the second accident related to the first? Was it looky-loos? Was it, rubbernecking? Did they swerve to avoid?
Both drivers were DUI, and the accidents were not related.
Were there already emergency vehicles on the scene?
No. The utility workers provided first response.
Okay.
And then 4 minutes later, boom, the second accident happened.
You want to see the video? You want to show the video?
Can we see the video? If you're hesitant,
No, I saw it earlier.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, you've seen it, it's your discretion.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, let's look at it.
well, because I'm a little like,
It goes by pretty quick.
Pretty fast, those cars are traveling.
Oh, no, it's very high speed. No racing. They were it was completely separate events.
If they were racing, the guy 4 minutes behind lost. Okay, watch.
You kind of have to watch all 3.
So the bus is pulling forward to go into the bay.
Correct.
Now watch, there he comes. He hit the
No,
bus.
he hit the bus. Yeah, he hit the bus, bounced off of it, and it ignited a fire.
So do you have the other one on there as well? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, while we're watching the video, I want to commit, this is the second accident.
Boom.
Yeah, I think for the safety of our staff.
Lightning struck twice. I'd like to acknowledge Jeff Matlin, the general manager from, there you are, Jeff. Jeff, I want to publicly recognize your employees, utility workers. That's duty above and beyond the call. And we deeply appreciate everything they did, they do, and I think we also have a better appreciation of the risks they face every day. So kudos to MV, kudos to your folks.
And watch, this bus doesn't move much
Yeah.
once it gets hit.
Is the bus driver okay?
Everybody, all the MV employees are okay, physically.
Amazing.
So anyway, we'll be working, Bill, we've been working with your staff and looking at, some options, including
Mr.
adding
Hartung has another question.
K-Rail. Mr.
Mr.
Hartung.
Hartung.
Yeah, and this is not related to this, so as soon as the director, I wanted to make a note to the director about something, so
Okay.
let's wait until after we're
Okay.
done having the discussion about the accident, and we'll come back, Mr. Chairman.
So anyway, we're discussing with NDOT the adding of K-Rail, which is a Jersey barrier type structure, removal of the Matley traffic lane closest to the property. The traffic lane could be removed and are delineated with K-Rail. Also looking at changes in the traffic light at the base of the off-ramp to either flashing red stop or cycle it on a red to require vehicles to stop. Apparently, this light pretty much stays green, I think, in the evening hours. And then also adding rumble strips or other tactile media onto the road itself when you're coming down the ramp to remind folks to begin slowing down, kind of like when you come into a toll booth over in the Bay Area. So anyway, again, a very disturbing event, but nonetheless, very thankful to the MV folks for stepping up and dealing with this and getting the emergency responders in and managing it. And then, of course, we appreciate NDOT. Again, we're going to be getting some emergency safety measures put in place and deal with this. This, to my knowledge, is the most significant horrific accident we've had in the life of the Villanova facility. So anyway, with that, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report for this month.
Okay, questions or comments, Mr. Hartung?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So on a much better note, I would like to congratulate RTC staff, of course, the director, Michael Moreno, your staff. I had the occasion to be at Junkies, and no, I was not looking for new suits. They could not say enough good things, not only about RTC, but maybe of greater note, that place was packed. And I mean packed. And
One more item.
Jessica Schneider, who owns Junkies, took me aside. She knew who I was. And we had a short conversation about several things, but she said to me, Commissioner, RTC has been so great. Our business has never been better. So for those people who think, and look, it is a disruption. Virginia Street project is a disruption. It's a necessary disruption. But I will tell you that at least Junkies is thankful for the disruption on multiple fronts, including high business levels. Much easier to get in and get out of, so I did want to bring that to bear for the fact that it is an inconvenience for those businesses. It is an inconvenience for travelers up and down Virginia Street, but at least as far as they're concerned, things are well.
You know, I had the opportunity to go through Midtown on Wednesday, and as soon as I got in there, I go, oh, why did I come this way? I sailed right on through. It went really fast, and then ate at a restaurant in Midtown last night. Easy to get there, found parking, and the restaurant was packed as well. So Mr. Gibson's got an additional item.
Denise?
Sorry.
I want to first congratulate Commissioner Lucy for his reelection, and I also want to acknowledge Mr. Smith, the new mayor of Sparks.
Thank you. Thank you. That gentleman sitting in front of me is going to be a tough act to follow. And if you haven't had the opportunity, we have a dinner on Monday night to say farewell to Mr. Martini at the Nugget, November the 19th. So if you can make it, I'm sure he'd love to have you there. Mr. Hartung had another comment.
I have a question for the director. Mr. Director, tell me, where are we with Egyptian and Sunset Springs? Let's put that on the record.
It's under design.
It's under design. Timeline?
I'll have to get that for next month, but I just know we've got to firm doing the design.
What would, give me a general idea. Next,
Probably next year.
I know it's, no,
Next spring.
you can't get it by December?
Let me get a design and see what we're looking at.
I'm kidding, but so.
I'm not.
Mid next year sometime?
Yeah, I will be part of next year's TE Spot 9.
Because
project.
I get calls on it. I got a call yesterday. Had a conversation about it yesterday. So it's on people's minds, and so
It's in the
I'm glad
pipeline.
RTC is addressing it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Moving on to the federal report. Mr. Gibson.
Mr. Chairman, you will note in your agenda there is no written federal report, and that's because we have a human being who will give the federal report. Congressman Porter is here. He's in the back of the room, and given the recent election and significant changes in the election, I invited John to come out and provide us, and I believe Mr. Brian McAnally is also going to be assisting. Anyway, John is here to give us a report and provide us his thoughts on how and what implications the election may have for the RTC. So, John, welcome.
Congressman,
Good
welcome.
morning. And as was mentioned earlier, congratulations to Chairman Bob Lucy and also to our Chairman of the RTC and Mayor. We appreciate your service. Thank you, both of you, for raising your hand and doing it again.
Thanks, John.
We need you. There's a lot going on in Washington, D.C., and there's a lot going on in the state of Nevada, and I appreciate being here today because there is so much turmoil happening across the street from our office in Washington. But as Lee mentioned, I want to talk a little bit about what it means to the RTC, what it means to Northern Nevada, as we have new members, not only here in Nevada, but across the country. But first, let's talk about the environment, what's happening today. And I can go back in time and give the firsthand experience as a member that was not reelected. The day that you discover you win or lose, things change in Washington. And let's take that for a member that's retiring or that has been defeated. You literally have about 2 weeks to move out of your office. So election was the 6th, correct? Most members of the House have to be out of their offices by this weekend. That means shut down. That means move everything out. It means find a place to put it, get a U-Haul truck. So today, there are U-Haul trucks, I'm sure, lined up outside of the House building, and the Senate, the House of Lords doesn't move quite as fast, but a similar process is happening. There are displaced employees. There's probably, every House member has about 18 staff people, either in their district or in DC. So there's probably 50, 60 changes. So that means there's thousands of people being disrupted. So on the personal side of this, a lot of folks right now are desperately looking for jobs. That doesn't mean that whether you're Democrat or Republican, the shift does happen every 2 years. And most people kind of expect it, but not every office expected to lose this cycle. So right now, literally they're loading up their U-Hauls. They will not have an office. The new members and or former members, so I guess former members first, they'll be given a desk in the basement of Rayburn. I experienced that firsthand. You get one desk for a staff of whatever you have left, and I'm sure they're all scrambling right now. But the facts remain, they're still in office, likely until right before Christmas. So the sitting members are having to make decisions over the next 3+ weeks without the typical support staff, without an office, without a location. If you're a new member, you don't get an office till you're sworn in, which is likely, I guess, the 3rd of January right now. I'm not sure the exact date. So new members, and I'll talk about our Nevada new members here in a moment, but they literally are trying to put together an office today. They probably have 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 applications sitting on their desk. Again, that's what happened to me when I first was elected. Thousands and thousands of people looking for jobs. Also, what about customer service? What about just constituent services? What's happening right now? Again, it's a very difficult time because as a member of Congress or a member of Senate or a staff member, you may have been working on constituents' problems or providing those services, and all of a sudden you have to figure out how to finish helping those people that need your help the most. And especially right now, people are still struggling to find jobs. They're struggling with their life in certain circumstances. But it is a lot of disruption, and there's a lot of emotions, not only in the offices, but certainly, as I mentioned, the staff and within the committee assignments. And then you also have to figure out how to get all of your stuff out of your district office. So some members have multiple district offices across the state. I was fortunate to have one office, but literally you have to shut down an office in your district as well. And I think some of you heard this story, and I won't elaborate today, but I was accused of stealing my credenza, some of you may remember, because you're trying to get everything taken care of, and members are able to purchase their desk and certain things. But there's so much disruption. Literally, I got a call from a reporter who had heard I'd stole my credenza as I'm driving back to Nevada. So I did not steal it, Mr. Chairman. I did return it, and I did purchase everything else. But all that said, what does that mean to the RTC? What does it mean for Nevada? It means it could also be a very positive time for us moving forward. We have new members, exciting to have new members. We're certainly going to miss Senator Heller, who has served well and had done a lot of great things for the RTC and for the state, and we wish him well. But a transition is happening. Congresswoman Rosen today, again, she will not have an office at all until January 3rd. So she's a sitting member of Congress, she's an incoming senator, and she has a desk sitting in the basement of Rayburn, although I'd much rather be a senator sitting in the basement of Rayburn than going out the door. But with that environment, there are opportunities for RTC. And we have done a really solid job, and Lee, with your leadership and your board, not only this board, but former boards, of creating solid, strong relations within our delegation. And we have a new opportunity to do that. But specific to members, again, moving forward, Catherine has just been appointed the head of the senatorial committee for the Democrats, which is a huge promotion. It's a solid for us as a community. She has always served well when she was Attorney General and now in the U.S. Senate, but it provides a new opportunity for us there with another network of leaders across the U.S. with her and her new role. We have Mr. Amodei, who will likely remain on the Appropriations Committee, likely remain on the two subcommittees. One has to do with legislative operations. The other is appropriations for Interior, which is really important for us in the public lands. We also will have, of course, two new members from Southern Nevada. Actually, Congressman-elect Horsford will regain some of his seniority because he did serve for a term prior to being defeated. So it does help him as he moves into the ranks. He now will not be considered a freshman. Will likely have a pretty good choice of what committees he wants. He has served on financial services in the past, government oversight and reform. Again, likely will go back, and hopefully he'll choose to go back to natural resources, which is really important for public lands. Congresswoman-elect Susie Lee, her strength for years has been education, so I'm assuming she would choose education in the workforce. Also, now being in the majority, there will be a lot of additional assignments available for those that are in the majority. The Congresswoman Titus, who sends her best, I was speaking to her chief an hour or so ago, sends her best. She's sitting in a really solid position, a strong position in leadership, moving up in the ranks. She likely will become a chairwoman of one of the committees under transportation and infrastructure, which is, again, a solid win for RTC and for the state of Nevada. She served on this committee in the past, and it's a long title, but listen to each part of this because it's very critical. So it's called Subcommittee of Transportation Infrastructure on Economic Development, very broad. That could be how important transportation is to economic development in Nevada and the country. Also has public facilities, public buildings, anything to do with any federal facilities across the country, and will have oversight over emergency management, which is FEMA, any other of these organizations that we work with. So kudos to likely Chairwoman Congresswoman Titus, who again has been a solid friend of RTC, and I'm assuming she'll continue to be there. What about leadership? I'm asked that question quite a bit. Right now they're battling over whether likely Speaker Nancy Pelosi will be elected into that capacity. It looks like that will happen. I do believe she has the votes, but right now they're scrambling over leadership. Those decisions will be made the week that some of your members of the RTC and Lee are coming to Washington. It'll be right after Thanksgiving. That decision will be made. Also, during that week or shortly after, they'll be establishing the calendar as we go into 2019. It's not available yet, although we can guess pretty close. With the holidays that are situated, we'll have a pretty good idea. But the actual report as to recess will be released sometime shortly, early in December. Some of the legislation, and then I'm going to open it up for some questions about DC and then turn it over to Brian to talk a little bit more about Carson City. But here's some key things that I think impact the RTC. The THUD bill that funds transportation likely is going to be stalled until there's some decision made on a wall. And I see you guys have already made a decision on a wall right here. I don't know if that's to keep you in or keep us out. I'm not sure. We can talk about that later. But there likely will be bickering, fighting, whether there should be an omnibus bill or whether there should be a continuing resolution. It likely will be tied to the wall, which means likely they'll do a continuing resolution into February to fund the U.S. government. But what does that mean to us? Of course, that's THUD is very important for RTC. A few other things focusing into the next session. The highway authorization, or the FAST Act, as it was called, will be reauthorized in the next cycle. So that means starting in 2019, they're going to start working on the reauthorization for 2020. So that's tomorrow, really, literally in time, which is why, again, it's really important that you continue your efforts in building those relationships in Congress. The key issues, it's hard to really say exactly, but if I were a gambling man, I would say probably be an emphasis on gun control, likely be emphasis on expanding Medicaid. Prescription drugs possibly will be a continued priority for the new Congress. Immigration will likely take up a lot of time, and they may be able to come to some consensus with the Senate on immigration, hopefully. Of course, the investigations have already started, so they'll be busy investigating and turning every stone to see what they can do to disrupt a presidential race. But I think really important is that the president is likely to negotiate with Democrats because, again, there's the question of what party that he is at this point in time. It's debatable. But there is a good chance that he would negotiate an infrastructure bill. The problem is we're $800 billion deficit today. How are we going to fund it will continue to be the debate, because I do believe there's support for an infrastructure bill. But I think that's really a priority for the RTC as we continue into 2019, is making sure that we're at the table, as you've been in the past, to determine where the money is going to go and which monies we need for the Washoe County and certainly the full state. But I do think there's a possibility that we'll have an infrastructure bill. And I do think that that conversation is going to start sometime after the first of the year. So that's really kind of an overview. I just want to reemphasize that for the next 60 days, everyone's looking for a place to land and trying to figure out their new role. And we always say it's kind of like learning with a fire hose. We are fortunate that we have a new governor that Brian's going to talk more about. We have a new governor that came from local government. He understands local government, and he understands transportation. And I think that's a real positive. We do have experience in Congressman Horsford, who understands Nevada. He understands the Nevada legislature, and he understands infrastructure and transportation. Of course, with Mark, in his leadership role, continuing to take care of Nevada and certainly Washoe County. I think that, I'm thinking with optimism that once we engage with these new members and once they have an understanding, I think that's to our advantage. And I've been talking to Lee about this already, about getting the new members of Nevada here as quickly as possible to northern, northwestern Nevada to see we show them around so they have an understanding. But Kudos to the Democratic Party, did a phenomenal job of turning out. And politics is no longer as usual. I'd like to leave that part just by saying that the social media side of public service is changing the way we do business, and has to change the way we do business. But also, I think that there's a lot of noise out there that pushes agendas, and I'm not talking political agendas. There's also business agendas. Whether you're cable news or you're a print newspaper, I do think that we need to turn more to our local broadcasters because they are trained journalists, and encourage more involvement with local media because on the national level, whether you're holding stock in CNN or MSNBC or Fox, a lot of that corporate America is driving the media and driving the messages. And unfortunately, and I know two that just were reelected, we are now seem to be turning to the news to validate our opinion, not to be educated on issues. And that continues to concern me. And we'll do everything we can to make sure the facts are heard and known about what's a priority for the RTC. So if you have any questions about Washington, I'm happy to make up an answer or tell you what I think I know.
Questions or comments? Thank you for that report, John.
Thank you.
Okay.
At the Porter Group, we are a staff now of 10. Fortunate to have a really solid team, have in the past, but continue to grow. We have 2 members from Mr. Amity's office that are now a part of our team. Stephanie Walker, who was Mr. Amity's legislative director, is a part of our team. Rachel, some of you may have known, was Congressman Amity's scheduler. They both have joined us in the last 90 days. Also, in now almost 2 years, Brian McAnallen has been with us, who is here today. And of course, General Herbert remains strong and has 2 stars. So we have to be really nice to the general, and has since retired in the last 30 days from the Guard. So we'll be able to spend a little more time with the general. He's still solid. I know Dan Maurer, you know really well, and I normally will tell stories about him, but I'll save that because of the lack of time. And certainly Chris Porter, my son, remains, and we've put Kristen to work as well. So there's 10 of us. Brian lives here in Nevada, spends a lot of time in northern Nevada and in Washington as needed, but his experience in public service from the city of Las Vegas, running their government affairs, to being with the Las Vegas Metro Chamber. So you want to take a moment and talk?
Sure.
And by the way, how are we on time? You're okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Welcome, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, commission. Brian McAnallen with the Porter Group. First off, let me just give a hat tip to Washoe County, whose election turnout outpaced both the state and Clark County. So you all did a tremendous job in making sure that there was significant voter turnout at around 70%, which is really phenomenal. Certainly there was a Democratic wave that not only enveloped Washington, but also here in Nevada, and bringing with that a governor, Lex Sisolak, who chaired the Clark County Commission, Democratic governor for the first time in 20 years. As the congressman mentioned, he does have a real passion for infrastructure and transportation funding, and he drove that issue from his chairmanship in Clark County, working very hard to implement the fuel revenue indexing in the county well before it was implemented statewide. As such, he knows the challenges in finding funding for transportation in this state, which is one of the reasons why he was so strongly supportive of fuel revenue indexing, and to make sure that it worked in Clark County. And I think he'll bring that kind of a desire and passion to working on transportation issues statewide. At the legislature, we had also some changes. The Democrats controlled both the state assembly and the state senate in the last legislative cycle, but they certainly picked up more seats. The magic number there is 13, because 13 is what the assembly minority was left with, which means that the assembly majority was even stronger and now finishes with 9 after some recent pickups after some vote counts and verifications. So they now have a supermajority, which would only mean something significant if the governor was of a different party, and they would need the veto ability to override vetoes, which they now have. It will be a little more challenging, I think, for that caucus to marshal its troops together at a number of 29 rather than when you're at a tight margin of say, 22 or 23. The leader for the assembly will again be Speaker Frierson, who has been a lobbyist in his first iteration up in Carson City, an attorney in the district attorney's office, public defender's office, certainly understands judicial issues, and to that end, I think will bring some criminal justice reform as part of the agenda to Carson City. And the minority leadership has gone to Jim Wheeler, and that was sort of a transfer from the minority leadership in the Assembly in Southern Nevada. So the Northern Nevada has also picked up the minority leadership of the state Senate as well. So while all caucus leaders were from the South the last session, now the minority leaders are from the North. So that is another issue that should certainly help you. As I mentioned, the number 13 is what the Democrats ended up with in the state Senate. They picked up 2 seats, both in Clark County, and one was sort of up in the air, but a 24-vote difference put Assemblyman Keith Pickard into the state Senate seat that was held by Senator Roberson. So there's been a lot of changes in leadership. We're not quite sure who will chair both the Assembly and Senate Transportation Committees, but I can tell you already that on the Senate side, there's some bipartisanship working between Scott Hammond and Ivana Kinsella, who has taken more of a role in there. Of course, the chairmanship last session of the Transportation Committee in the Senate was held by Mark Menendo, who left the Senate, and there'll be some changes there. As the congressman mentioned, there's some opportunities with the business community. I would just point out, I think, 2 issues that are on the horizon that I think have certainly statewide impacts and an opportunity for the RTC in Washoe County to engage equally on transportation issues with everyone, and has a chance to weigh in on nuances that are probably more specific or important to you. 2 of these issues, one consists of an opportunity to sort of change some statewide procurement issues related to smart cities and emerging technologies to streamline a process for government entities to enter into contracts for pilot programs. Oftentimes you'll find that those technologies are so exclusive and so focused and unique that you can't find competitors for it, which makes it more difficult as you try to go through and do an open bidding process. So this bill, I think, as the language evolves, will help in aiding in making those opportunities more available. That doesn't necessarily mean everything's going to be sole sourced. Might require a little bit more of an explanation as to why that technology is so unique and why it's necessary and how you would put those pilot programs together. But there again, I think is an opportunity to allow all of our communities to be more innovative and to try to figure out how new technologies and emerging opportunities can be applied to our communities and rolled out in a pilot program. The second issue I'd bring to your attention deals with fuel revenue indexing. As I first mentioned, it's an opportunity to try to bring a little more parity between alternative fuels vehicles, electronic fuels vehicles, fueled vehicles, and be able to recoup some of the lost opportunity where they don't contribute through the gas tax to improve our roadways. So there's a thought that we would do both a short-term fix and a long-term fix, and the short-term fix might entail increasing fees at registration on those vehicles to try to balance out and recoup some lost revenue there. And I think as a longer-term fix, the thought is that there would be a longer interim committee or a longer study committee with a clear direction from the legislature that they come back with a comprehensive plan to approach funding of roadways and maybe changing terminology from something like fuel revenue indexing to roadway user fees or something of that nature, similar to what you might have heard on a vehicle miles traveled, which many of us have been waiting for direction from the United States Department of Transportation on that issue. So I think there'll be a movement there and an opportunity for everybody to engage in that public policy discussion, but trying to find alternative ways for us to continue pulling in the revenue we need to fund our roadways and our transportation systems. So with that, I'll end and appreciate the opportunity to speak with you all today and look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you.
And in conclusion, thank you, Brian. You know, transportation is one of those issues that brings people together, and you know, the RTC has played such a vital role in coordinating the community and communicating with the community. But now more than ever, transportation can help strengthen our community, whether it's travel and tourism, business, housing, and our continued growth. So I applaud you, but also encourage you going into 2019 that your role probably will be even larger than it's ever been on the transportation side, but also the leadership that you're providing, touching every avenue, every part of Northern and the rest of the state. So thank you. Appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Mr. Gibson?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So, Mr. Chairman, so Brian, you sort of struck a chord with me with electric vehicles and alternative fuels. And I was trying to sort of work in my mind how you would adjust someone's registration fees. And the thought came to me, every year when I go down and I register my vehicle, the mileage gets recorded when I do a smog check. And so would there be something along the line where you would have to go down and have your vehicle checked by an official station? They charge you $5, and then the mileage for the year goes into what you might pay in terms of a VMT tax?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, I would suggest that I think that's all part of that discussion, right? I don't think that the solution has been predetermined on that issue, and I think that there are, you know, just as you articulate, probably many thoughts as to how we'll get there. I think it's encouraging that we're moving from just having the conversation to kind of bringing it out in more of a, you know, a thoughtful public policy discussion. I think that could be part of how they reach that solution. And I know that there's certainly a desire to make sure that not only do we have that discussion in the 120-day session, but that it'll continue through the interim with some strong ideas about how we make this more of a permanent or long-term fix heading into the 2021 session.
And I might add an equitable fix.
Right, correct, sir, yes. I think that everybody on all sides of that equation or all sides of that issue are certainly trying to define or decide what is equitable, what isn't overbearing, what is reasonable, but to make sure we're securing the revenue that's needed for the demands on our infrastructure and our roadways.
Yeah, I mean, just because you're driving an electric vehicle doesn't mean you don't impact the roads and impact the system.
That's
so. Yeah, I you know, even though there's a circumvention, I'll look forward to see what the solutions are, and it'll be an interesting conversation on both sides, and there'll be some heated arguments, I'm sure. But this is at the end of the day, it's about equity.
That's right.
And Brian has played a major role in creating what's called the Southern Nevada Forum, and some of you have attended in the past, where they brought together the business community and local governments and state legislators periodically on top issues that are of collective importance. And we're happy to continue reporting when we can of those particular issues that are happening in the Southern Nevada area. But Brian helped create this, if not created this, and is it Korthofen, do you guys mean?
We on During the interim, the group will meet formally in a large setting about 4 times a year, and the next time we're scheduled to meet is January to kind of roll out some of the topics. And the 2 that I mentioned were heavily discussed in the Transportation and Infrastructure Subcommittee of the Southern Nevada Forum, and I'm the staff liaison for that. So we will be discussing those issues in a broad format in January to help educate some of the new legislators on these topics. And then throughout the session, we'll have a couple meetings with the legislators to talk about these issues as they are discussed in committees and voted on. And then when session is over, the forum will pick up again and have some large policy discussions. And then the subcommittees meet on a monthly basis, or at least we try to meet on a monthly basis for about, the year in between the interim, and developing the public policy issues and then presenting them. And then they're introduced in the next legislative session.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
I've got a question.
Mr. Gibson?
Brian, can you, so refresh my memory, the last session, I believe Senator Menendo wanted to create a interim committee, and that, I believe, was vetoed by the governor, or did it just not make it?
Mr. Chairman, Lee, you're absolutely right. Senator Menendo wanted to do that. He had wanted to work on that issue for quite a while. Certainly, just to redefine this issue for everyone, there are structured interim committees through the legislative process that the minute the session is over, within a few months that the session is over, are structured to meet ongoing and plan legislation or have the ability to introduce BDRs in the next legislative session. One of those is public lands, one of those is education, and they all have, each committee has their own BDRs that they're allowed to recommend, and then they're automatically introduced in the next session. Transportation is an issue that does not have an interim committee. There is some thought that what could happen or what should happen from the best public policy standpoint is that the existing legislative committees all meet in the interim, and that way they're able to have full ongoing discussions about these policy issues, which could help then to shepherd the legislation into the next full session. So that is one pathway that would allow for all committees that aren't represented in a directed interim way to have an opportunity to discuss these issues. The bill you're referring to did not make it. It was opposed by many folks behind the scenes because they were concerned about what that might look like. So therefore, there was more of a desire to kind of bring in all committees that did not have an interim committee to try to do that. So it wasn't just sort of a standalone transportation issue. That's why I think that there's a modification that might happen in that area. But the whole idea is to allow for more discussion in the interim on these significant policy issues related to transportation and infrastructure that just don't happen unless we have a directed study committee on a particular topic, which is what I think will happen when we come to this roadway user fee discussion, that will be a specific topic that will be assigned to a task force or interim committee. But on all the other transportation issues, there's not really a venue for that, and that was certainly the intent of the bill.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Ms. Jordan?
Thank you very much. I just want to make a brief comment on the great work that I think you guys always do on behalf of this body and the entire community. We at local government, while there's much division and toxicity going on maybe in DC, here at the local level, not so much. We kind of understand that potholes don't care what party you're in. The pothole just needs to be filled. So we are excited about what the future holds here in the state and look forward to assisting you to get the things we need to do for our region. So thank you for your work.
Any other questions or comments? Great reports. Thank you. Look forward to your next one.
Guys, thank you for flying out. Appreciate it.
Okay, we'll move on to NDOT monthly updates. Bill, welcome.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations.
Thank you.
On your mayorship, and I also wanted to personally congratulate Commissioner Lucy on his victory as well. So I've got quite a bit to talk about today. The Spaghetti Bowl project, the draft EIS has been posted for review and public comment. So, of course, we're still on schedule. Public hearing is scheduled for December 12th at the Reno Sparks Convention Center. It'll be broadcast on Facebook Live at 3:30 p.m. and 5:30 p.m. The comment period will be open until January 15 of 2019. So that's a great opportunity to get a lot of public input, a lot of public comment on a very important project for this area. The unsolicited proposal, so the P3 project at NDOT to add a lane out to the Tri-Center and back between Vista Boulevard and USA Parkway. That's moving along. A presentation will be made at the State Transportation Board meeting on December 3rd. So we'll get direction and a decision from the Transportation Board on the unsolicited proposal and how we'll move forward with that. By NRS, there are 3 options for the Transportation Board. They can either accept it, reject it, or competitively procure the project. And due to confidentiality, there's not a whole lot I can unshare on that. We're right in the middle of the procurement, very confidential procurement, and I don't want Bill to ruin the chances for the entire project. So, Mount Rose Highway, there was a very unfortunate crash recently. I just want to put our thoughts and prayers out for the families that were involved. I guess there were a couple of Samaritans that were trying to help that were actually struck as well. So, yeah, it's a little tough for me. Anyway, I'll push through this. So NDOT conducted a road safety assessment. We've been working very closely with Washoe County in developing a road safety assessment. So we've gone out, we've looked at everything along the corridor. We have a report. We started that months and months ago. Just unfortunate of that horrific crash that occurred there. But NDOT has been working very closely with Washoe County. We put the road safety audit together. We've been working with Dwayne Smith, Mike Feast very closely in putting together a community meeting on December 5th so that we can explain what the road safety audit, what the findings were, and what some of the things are that we're going to do to try to make that road safer. We have directed staff to proceed with improvements to improve lighting and signage. So the low-hanging fruit, you know, of course, we've got a report, but we don't want to wait for the report to actually do things. So we're pulling the low-hanging fruit, trying to go out, do what we can, striping, lighting, those sorts of things. Working very closely with Washoe County, not only on that corridor, but we want to start having discussions with Dwayne Smith and the engineering staff on Pyramid Highway, Mount Rose Highway. Some of these, for a lack of better term, one lane in, one lane out. We have to be better at that as a region. And I'm very excited to have started those conversations with Dwayne Smith and start looking at and working more closely with RTC on looking at those regional access points and how we can make roadways, improve the capacity and the safety on those roadways. And finally, I just want to give kudos to Brian Stewart of the RTC and Thor Dyson of NDOT. The crash we saw in the video earlier today, Thor and Brian got together right away, started, hammering out a plan, and there's a plan to put some barrier rail that Lee mentioned along that stretch of road where both of those cars found their ways into the bus facility, which is very scary. So. With that, I'm finished with my report, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions at this time?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Hartung.
Thank you. So I'll start with most recent and then work my way backwards, Mr. Hoffman. With an horrific accident on the Mount Rose Highway, it saddens all of us. But I think what's important to note here is that a cause of the accident has yet to be determined, and we cannot rule out that it was impaired driving. the hard part for all of us is, in terms of impaired driving, how would we respond to that? And so here's my question for NDOT. Would NDOT be prepared to do something along the lines of even putting a barrier? Because I think it's appropriate. We have barriers, and we have a barrier in Spanish Springs going down a section of highway where there's this sort of little dog leg. And maybe that is an appropriate response. And so I'm not asking for a response to that. I'm just saying I'm hoping that we'll keep all of our options on the table. It's incumbent upon all of us, and I'm not trying to steal the chairman's, the vice chair's thunder here, because this is his district, but, I want to keep options on the table, including some of those same options in dangerous stretches on Pyramid Highway, Mr. Hoffman. We have a 2-lane stretch that goes from essentially Egyptian out to the end of the valley, very high speeds, and I will tell you that people are traveling. I went out and looked at the new intersection at Calle de la Plata and Pyramid the other day just to see how it was flowing and look at the geometry of the intersection. On my way back in, I pulled out onto the highway. I had the green signal to get out on the highway. A truck coming from the opposite direction, which had stopped at the light, flew up on me, and he was riding me hard. And when we got to the Y, he passed me. He was doing at least 75. And so it is not if. We're going to have some issues out in those kinds of places, and we're going to have to look at safety concerns, and I don't know how else to deal with some of that stuff. When you have somebody who crosses, and when you have a 2-lane road and they cross that double yellow, it becomes horrific. So my prayer is that NDOT, along with Washoe County, will respond to those places where we really need rapid response. And then I'll stay on Pyramid Highway. I know that we are somewhere in the design of the acceleration lane from the Martin Marietta pit. I would like to remind you and Mr. Malfabon that Martin Marietta and Pyramid Materials are both willing participants and will do in-kind participation. And by the way, and I'll make no bones about this, that's an expectation that I have to mitigate their impact. Even though they've been there forever, there's still an impact, and they are willing participants. So I'm hoping that we will be able to take materials from them, because that is while it's not direct cash that goes into the system, it does represent a dollar amount, a significant dollar amount. And so I'm hoping that we will take them up on that and not just not say, well, we have no methodology or no mechanism to deal with that. And it's a comment, rhetorical more than anything. And then this is something I want to urge NDOT on, because I've heard several people making public comment about the Spaghetti Bowl and that it will not be even started until 2030. And that is not what your team has told us. And I had a guy tell me the other day, well, it's not going to be even started till, for 10 or 12 years. Come on. They're off by a decade. Yeah, a decade, literally. So just put on the record of the desire to get things moving, if you would, and maybe your PIO needs to really push this out into the media, that this is on the forefront for NDOT, for City of Reno, Washoe County, for City of Sparks, to get this project on the books as quickly as possible.
Right. Well, just to your point, Bill Hoffman, for the record, through the chairman, the Reno Spaghetti Bowl project is the #1 priority I'm speaking for Southern Nevada. I wouldn't say for the state, but I certainly would say in this region, it's the #1 priority. And what we've done, not only to beat the 2030 timeframe that I heard is out there,
Yes.
we took a 10-year process on average and cut it to 2.5 years.
Yes.
And not only did we cut the environmental process down, and it's not finished. I shouldn't, I should just not assume that anything's approved or cleared. But if everything goes right, The environmental impact statement will be done in 2.5 years versus 10. We've broken out the first phase of the project. We're bonding for that. The RTC has contributed dollars, significant dollars towards that project. The entire team believes that we will have shovels in the ground by 2020 at the very latest. So we're 10 years ahead of the schedule of the 2030 that's out there. I'm very excited about the project, and I'm extremely proud of everybody that's worked on this project because they've done a phenomenal job with efficiency and just the amount of years they've cut off the project. So thank you very much for giving me that opportunity.
And thank you, thank the NDOT team. When I met with them, great team, great innovative designs. And by the way, I will tell you, I supplied them with photographs that were made from Raven because we went up and did just an audit one day of looking at traffic flows. And so they have, when you see those photographs, and they belong to the public, but I provided them to Alex, and so it's exciting for me to see this get moving so quickly, and I want to thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Jordan.
Thank you very much. I was kind of surprised. Someone reached out to me the other day, too, and said, hey, there's a problem with all the traffic backing up on the east to southbound on 80. And when will that ever be fixed? And sometimes you live in this bubble that people don't hear all the great things that we do going on. So I always push the message out in as simple and layman terms as I can. You guys have provided great maps of all the stuff that's going on, including to me, which I had put them up in my office, which has taken up literally my entire office because those maps are huge. But so we're very much looking forward to that. And for the East 80 to southbound I-580, relief is coming in 19, will start, and like you said, shovels in the ground. So that's huge, that's significant. I did want to say Audi Boulevard, the northbound on-ramp, the meter light is not working at night. So that was brought to my attention, so we need to look at that. Thank you very much. And then to the point of the issues that we're continuing to see in roads that are 2-lane, high-speed, low light, and then as we're more and more pedestrian, bicycle, human interface. Mount Rose is one for sure that is, although that's more than 2-lane. I continue to be concerned with a couple of major areas in our community as we continue to develop with higher speeds. North McCarran, the North McCarran Loop, still high speeds, 55 miles an hour on a lot of McCarran Loop. It's 10 miles an hour faster than our new Southeast Connector. And I continue to be very concerned with that interface with those high speeds, wide road, dark, and then we're growing and growing and growing. And you got a lot of people at the top of Keystone that could cross over into the canyons to either bicycle or hike, and they have to make this funky U-turn on North McCarran with cars interfacing at 55, and it terrifies me. I am just terrified of a horrific accident that is going to occur there. It's going to. There's no question. And then the other thing is West 4th. You know, with all of the issues with the Spaghetti Bowl and I-80, all of these other arterial roads are seeing more traffic, whether it's McCarran or West 4th, to get out towards Verdi and that area. And that road, again, has, there was a traffic study done on it 4 or 5 years ago, because there's the Mayberry interface with it, where the people that are dead stop there at Lavender Fields, I can't remember the name of the business right there, I think that's it. And the traffic, I think the speed limit there is 50 or 55, and we did a traffic study, I think it was even lower before, and because people were going faster, the traffic speed was actually increased, but it didn't take into consideration the bicycle traffic, and the bicycle traffic that's their most traveled route. And I know we did some striping and that sort of thing, but with the density and the growth and the speed, that's another one. I am just terrified of somebody on a bicycle getting nailed by somebody going too fast. And but again, just the global look at these roads that are 2-lane, high speed, dark, as we grow, it's a tough one. It's kind of pushing out, and just maybe a different approach with not our freeway system, I get that's for higher speeds, but these ones where arterial roads that are 55 miles an hour, those are tough when we're interfacing from a dead stop or bicycles and pedestrians. Those I'm having a hard time with, so, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jordan. Just a few comments, and I'll turn this back over to the chair. Mr. Hoffman, as Commissioner Hartung pointed out in regards, and as you have pointed out as well, the horrific accident that happened to people that I've met and were part of those accidents. It was a tragic, tragic deal. And the one thing I want to make sure and point out, as Commissioner Hartung said, is we still don't know what the impetus of that incident was, and did occur at 10 p.m. over the weekend. But the one thing I do want to make sure is that it wasn't engineering. It had nothing to really do with the level of construction or homes on that in that corridor. It just happens to do with that it's a deadly highway, plain and simple. It's a deadly highway, just like many of our highways here, as we've spoken about today. Pyramid Highway, 431, 341 on the other side, going up Virginia Foothills is also a very deadly highway. We have some very challenged areas, and as we continue to grow in the Truckee Meadows and the Reno Sparks area, and within the county, we're going to see these types of incidents. And it happens, and it seems to happen more frequently during the winter months, when we see only 10 hours of daylight. It's dark by 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. There's many challenges that we see. So one thing that I would ask from NDOT as we continue to have this discussion is that you had brought up the low-hanging fruit of lighting and striping. I would definitely hope and really push for that we address some of those things, because specifically where that intersection, where that accident occurred, was just about a quarter of a mile away from a lighted intersection where there are some streetlights, but outside of 100 yards from that intersection, it goes dark. I mean, very dark. And I think one of the challenges that why we saw that second accident, which caused the other 2 fatalities, was there was a lack of light. Couldn't see those things, and those things transpired. And those are the challenges that we see. So not only nighttime driving in the winter months, but then you add snow, which is a very common thing in our area. You have increased traffic in the winter because of winter sports, people traveling to and from Lake Tahoe on Mount Rose Highway, or to and from work when they're traveling on Pyramid Highway. Those kinds of things start playing into the factors here. And so just last night, as I was driving into town at 5:30, it was just kind of that dusk time, at right around Neal Road area, traffic is starting to slow down. We're seeing higher levels of car loads and trips during our peak hours. I'm looking up at some of the lights, and a lot of the lights are out. And I know most of them are on, so I'd like to see if NDOT can go back and we can put in some sort of an engineering report or a request to have making sure those timers are working and what that timer schedule is checked on, and that those lights are being tested, and what that maintenance schedule is on that. The other concern I have, Mr. Hoffman, is that as we go into this next legislative session and we're seeing a change in our executive office, we consistently talk about funding and how NDOT's funding obviously is a big part of the state budget. And, we've got, Clark County, Washoe County, and then the rural areas to discuss. Commissioner Hartung and I just getting back from the Nevada Association of Counties conference, where we were having this discussion with a number of commissioners. It's a challenge for a lot of the north and the rurals when we have a good portion of the state, 80% of the state, and we get about a fraction of the budget, because obviously most of our population and our legislators are from the Clark County area. And this is not to be separatist or create division between us and the legislators in the South. I want to continue to have those open dialogues, and I want to continue to have an open relationship, but there's got to be some equity per se, is that if we have a certain amount of population, that equitable amount of money is coming to our area. Or because, look, our infrastructure is just as challenged and aging as much, and if not more challenged than some of the areas down south. And I understand that they have challenges, and I understand that they have a lot of individuals to deal with. But we have a lot of roads, and we have a lot of people, and our populations are growing very, very rapidly, and we are very challenged to continue to serve them, and especially when we talk about state highways, East Truckee River Canyon. I mean, every morning I get on and look at our news, and there's some sort of an accident on our East Truckee River Canyon. There's an accident on Pyramid Highway. There's on I-580 North or Mount Rose Highway, as we've seen. We've got to start addressing some of these things in a manner such that we can how can we as individuals help you go down to the legislature and really work towards getting some adequate funding for some of these safety measures, some of the better, as you would say, the low-hanging fruit. And as this commissioner, I would like to offer my abilities to come down and help and do whatever we need to do, whether it's develop relationship with legislators or what. But we need to start identifying some true funding for the North and what that looks like and how we're going to start dealing with some of those issues. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. For me, let's talk about the Spaghetti Bowl. First of all, Governor Sandoval came out and said that the Spaghetti Bowl is the #1 priority in the state. And by the speed of what this project is moving, it's certainly happening right now. So I'm grateful for that, and this project is going to be here before we know it. The one last comment I want to make, the biggest complaint we get in Sparks, I'm sure it's Reno and the county, is people speeding. You can't fix that. You can put it at 80 miles an hour, they're going to go 100 miles an hour. You can't fix the way people drive like that unless you start giving tickets out. And I may have mentioned this before. We did, we'll call it a sting on Vista Boulevard, a 45-mile-an-hour zone. They gave out 26 tickets within an hour. The slowest one was for 73 miles an hour. That's on Vista Boulevard. I live on a street that's 25. There's a guy doing 60 down it the other day. You couldn't, somebody pull out in front of him, it's done. So, and I'll just say that you can't fix stupid. People are going to do that. And, I wish we had that pill that made them slow down. So I suggest when you're driving on the streets of the city, and do the speed limit, make them follow you. And I know 2 or 3 lanes, you can't control it, but you just can't fix that. Bill, you got any further comments? We've been all over the board here.
Yeah, well, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Well, I guess what I'd like, first of all, I'd really like to thank Commissioner Lucy for lending a hand to help us with the legislature and funding. I know that a lot of the population lives in southern Nevada, but I think the commitment by this executive office and this director to do what we need to do, regardless of the conversation, we need to focus on needs and not pie charts of dollars going wherever we need to go. Because quite frankly, the rural fatality numbers are up in our state. So it's our job to keep people safe. So I would think that it would be okay for us to take money from the state, right, the state budget, and put it towards those needs, which are safety that we feel most highly about. But it did take a lot of effort by our front office to put in the STIP and get programmed and accelerate the North Valleys projects, the Spaghetti Bowl project, working on South Meadows and Damani Ranch with RTC. So we're trying to hit all of those. But to Commissioner Jardin's point, we're growing so fast. We're growing out of the funding that we have in Northern Nevada, quite frankly. But your conversation is very relevant, Commissioner Lucy, in terms of, okay, we've got this. Now what? Now where are we going? Because the amount that we're getting in total, both federal and state's not enough for the entire state and the growth that we're seeing. It just really isn't there. So I really appreciate your offer to help. Hopefully that helps, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Bill. Ms. Jordan.
Thank you very much, and I'll be very quick. I think one of the things that we can do a better job of that really doesn't cost us any money is, whether it be from this board or from NDOT, is to have a louder voice when it comes to bills that are going to assist us on the social side that are contributing to so many of our accidents. I think the ignition interlock device was a good first step, which means after you get your first DUI, you get popped for your first DUI, you have to put this ignition interlock on your car, which means then you have to blow into it in order to start your car the second time. So I would like for RTC, if we could, and then maybe this is in the commissioner items going forward, is to get some more data on trending to see where some things are happening on that front and see if the ignition interlock is helping with some of the DUI occurrences, because I have to believe it will, given the trends across the nation. The other thing is distracted driving. I think that our fines for distracted driving are far too low. And I think there's got to be a heavier hammer. I know there's been tragic incidents in Sparks in front of Reed High School. I don't know the details of that, but there's so many incidents that are distracted or impaired that we're not going to engineer our way out of that. But I think we need to be a louder voice on helping to make some social change through some legislative change. And I don't know that we've been a particularly loud voice when it comes to those sorts of bills, and I think we need to do a better job at that, so.
Okay, Bill, anything further? No, that finishes my report. Okay, any questions or comments? Thank you for the report. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to 5.1, acknowledge receipt of the 4th Street Parade Area monthly progress. Warren, come on down.
Good morning. Warren Call, RTC Project Manager for the 4th and Prater Project. Here to give you a construction update. Okay, project status, the schedule, we have 379 working days, of which we've used 100% of those as of August 27th. The project is 34 calendar days past contract completion date, and the anticipated completion date was the end of October. We had substantial completion November 1st. On the budget of the $42.3 million, the contractors earned $39.3 million. Construction activities over the past month, storm drain, the grouting of the manholes, and then cleaning out of the storm drain system. Tumwa water main we are working on the punch list items for that. Reno dry utility work, we're grouting the streetlight bases, installing number 9 traffic signal splice boxes, and doing punch list work as well. Also in Sparks dry utility work, we're installing the number 9 traffic signal boxes as well. Continuing on with the past month, the civil improvements, adjusting the sanitary sewer and storm drain manholes and cleanouts, BRT stops, installing historical glass panels at all eight stations, as well as the decorative steel. In our outreach, business outreach walks are in advance of our traffic control closures, and we continue to coordinate with NDOT, City of Sparks, City of Reno for the project punch list and closeout. Planned construction activity over the next month into December. The Reno work will be the interconnect splicing in Sparks as well. And the Sparks work replacing the existing luminaires with LED lights to bring continuity to the corridor with the lights. The ones that are out there now are all color. The upcoming traffic control will be minor traffic control for the LED light replacements as well. Having said that, is there any questions?
Any questions or comments? Ms. Jordan?
Thank you very much. And I thought she was going to be here today. She always has the guide dog. She's visually impaired.
Dora?
Yes. Dora, thank you. She was mentioning at our council meeting on Wednesday that she had traversed the 4th Prater, I think it was near Valley, and she said that they were having a difficult time. There's a light pole right in the middle of the sidewalk.
I don't believe that's.
Okay, well, we have her contact information, correct? Can we get in contact with her? Because she had two other things. There was something about where the ramp didn't align. Michael's shaking his head over here. And I thought she had said she was going to be here today, but we need to follow up with her because she's a great resource.
Mike Moreno, Public Affairs Manager for the RTC. Doris spoke to me at our CMAC meeting last week and made me aware of the issues that she spoke to you about or to the council. Part of it was the tactile tiles and the height of the curb to the street. So Warren is on it. He's working with our contractor to look at that, our consultant, as well as with City of Reno staff.
Also, we've got are going to have to set up a meeting next week with the fellow from UNR, which is, I understand, is the top ADA person up there. And he's going to come down and have a look at it and review it and give us his opinion as well.
Okay, very good.
So
Thank
we're
you.
working on it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any questions or comments, any further? Mr. Gibson?
Mr. Chairman, as I said, I believe this is going to be your last Fourth and Prater report, because we're going to do the ribbon cutting on December 14th. I want to congratulate and compliment Warren for his stewardship of this project. He has become one of the favorites of the Federal Transit Administration. In fact, when they're doing project oversight, they consistently ask me, where's Warren? Warren has built a tremendous credibility in his wide range of skills, from his engineering judgment to his unique understanding of the federal process. And I wanted to put on the record a compliment for Warren for his leadership on this project. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Lee.
Thank you, Warren. Okay, looking for motion to accept the report?
Well, hold on. May I call up Michael Marino? He's got some information on a special event that's going to be happening on 4th Street. here
Okay.
shortly.
Hold the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, hold the motion.
Thanks, Warren. Michael Marino, RTC Public Affairs Manager. And I'm not talking about the grand opening. We continue to work with businesses within the corridor. And most recently, we've been working with businesses on 4th Street. Commissioner Jordan has also been involved in these conversations with those businesses. They are rebranding the area on East 4th Street from Lake to Evans, or to Wells, excuse me, from Lake to Wells, as Reno's Brewery District. And as a result of the completion of the 4th Street Prater Way project and the launch of the new RTC Rapid Lincoln Line, they are going to be hosting an event on December 8th, celebration on the corridor. And it's to celebrate the improvements, reintroducing the public to their neighborhood. And so that event's December 8th, 2018, from 3 p.m. to 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. They're going to have bands, brewery and winery tours, local crafts, food trucks. And so it's an opportunity to celebrate what we've done in the corridor and bring people back to the businesses on 4th Street. So,
Thank you. Mr. Hartung?
So, Michael, I want to thank you for that. So what you're asking us to do in the brewery district is to hop on board?
sure. Yes. So, you know, there's a resurgence, a revitalization that's taking place with new businesses coming in. And so they have mobilized and have really are collaborating to push the brewery district
I
in
just
the
gave you the
community.
tagline, Michael.
And I'll share that with the group, and so, and they're welcome to use it, so.
They'll know right away it came from Hartung.
I'm sure they will.
Absolutely. Anything further?
No, I'd just like to thank the commission for the opportunity to present this past year, and it's been a pleasure, and thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Warren. Ms. Jordan?
Thank you very much. And the brewery district, I have to say, in some of our meetings, they coalesced quickly, and their website is incredible. They have a great logo, and you know, they made it through the tough stuff, and some of them didn't make it through. And I think as much as we can do to push this event out as commissioners and as a body is really important, so that they can kind of come back to life a little bit. And the whole area just looks incredible. And now with the ambassadors out walking around, it really is much different than it has been in the past. And I think it's imperative that we kind of push that message that 4th Street is open for business, and come and spend some money and enjoy some things. And I hope everybody will come out to the ribbon cutting, because it's very important that we kind of relaunch this area to send the message that construction is done, businesses are open, and come and enjoy.
Okay. Any further questions or comments?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? See none? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thanks, Warren. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
everything.
You bet.
Appreciate it. Okay, 5.2, acknowledge receipt of the Virginia Street Bus Rapid Transit Extension Monthly Progress Report. Jeff, welcome.
Good morning, Jeff Wilbrecht, RTC Project Manager. We're gonna do the video at the end. It doesn't matter, I just wasn't sure. We'll go with the video at the end. So yeah, I'm here to give an update on the Virginia Street project. So it's been going pretty well over the past couple months. We're about 48 days as of today into the project. It's a 115 working day calendar project, or working day project. We're just, work-wise, we're just under 50% of the way done of the utility project. We did have had a lot of milestones over the last last month associated with the rest of the project. So we're currently working on our OPCC and opinion of probable cost with the CMAR contractor. And that's at the 90% level. That's going to get us a cost and a schedule of kind of what we're thinking, how we're going to build this next phase of the project. Those are really good conversations to have, and they're really beneficial to the outreach that we're doing in this utility project. As we'll talk about later, we're going to have some meetings and kind of start continue communicating with the corridor about how we're moving forward. The other big event that's happened is the FTA risk assessment. So over the past couple days, the FTA from DC and Region 9 in San Francisco, as well as their PMOCs, their project management oversight consultants, came to town, and we did a great long risk assessment where they asked us all kinds of great questions about our scope, schedule, and budget. And we were able to explain the project, where risk lies, and go through that process. It was a really a good benefit for the project. To kind of talk a little bit about the just work going on, there's lots of good photos of all the stuff that we're working on. We're done with that main trunk of the joint trench. We're now just connecting all the service laterals. We're really, really close to being done with that. That's a really good milestone for us because then the utility companies themselves can then go in and start running their facilities. We're getting AT&T all spooled up to ready to start running their fiber optic, and that's going to start, I think, just after Thanksgiving. So that's a really great thing. It's going to help accelerate the remainder scope of work associated with the utility project. And then we're continuing to work on Tumwa water work as well as the storm drain work for the city of Reno. And we do have that fifth crew. So there's been kind of consistently 4 crews working. We have a 5th crew who's going through and just kind of what we call proofing and selling off that conduit that we've built for the utility companies. And then, yeah, we've been doing lots and lots of outreach for this project. It's been pretty successful, we believe, and we've been really connecting with a lot of different people. In October, we had our Taste and Treats event. It was a really good activity for us. It was Thursday, the 25th of October, and we kind of took over the South Virginia Plaza where Sushi Pier is at and Portofino's, and we did this little passport card where people could come in, get a passport, and then go around to all the food and drink venues in that area, sample the fares, enjoy, see what those businesses offer, and then at the end, when they came back with their completed passport, we then raffled off gift cards to the businesses that don't sell food or drink. So Sports West, there's a massage place, there's a wig shop. So we were trying to hit and patronize all those businesses. A really good thing about that is a lot of the people that came to that event don't normally come to Midtown. And so that's really what we're trying to do is get the people that patronize Midtown to come down, but also those that don't normally come to Midtown. We want to try to incentivize them and let them know, hey, here's a business to come visit. In November, we're supporting the existing events. So Midtown has a couple different existing events that we're helping with. One was the Offbeat Music Festival. Actually, that was, I think, early November. It was a great event where lots of different venues had music going on. And then Black Friday Junkies and that Midtown group do a Black Friday bus where they tour around Midtown and shop. And so we're just helping sponsor that event, or helping with that event. And then in December, we're going to do a Merry Days of Midtown event where it's going to be kind of 12 themed days. It'll be a lot of fun, and we'll be getting a lot of information out about that. We do a contractor lunch where we kind of surprise show up to a restaurant and help sponsor the first 25 lunches of the day. And then another unique thing that I think that we're doing is, so we're part of different professional organizations, ASE, APWA, the contractors are part of AGC and the CLC group there. And so we're getting those professional groups into Midtown. And so they always have like a monthly social event or lunch or something like that. And we're helping just charge those groups into Midtown to kind of, just further support those groups. And then we're holding continued stakeholder updates and, meetings with the community. As I said earlier, there's going to be a meeting hopefully in December sometime where we can give them a status update of the utility project, and then also really start to give them a better view of how we're going to build this second phase in Midtown, and then also into UNR, and how, through this OPCC opinion and probable cost workshops that I talked about earlier, of how it's coming together as a CMAR process to explain that schedule and the project. And with that, maybe we'll send a video, and I don't know if Michael Moreno wants to say anything else, but you're good? Oh, yeah, so Thanksgiving, we're gonna we're gonna stop work, but the traffic control devices will still be up, but we'll be kind of on a cool down period, so let people get into the corridor, access everything. But here's a video, so Cole and his team has done a lot of work to kind of help illustrate what Midtown's gonna look like, and here's a demonstration of that. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, Jeff, questions or comments?
Looks good.
Looks great.
Easy.
Thank you, Jeff. Oh, okay, Ms. Jordan.
Thank you very much. And this is something I know that I've spoken to Michael about before, but obviously, these businesses during construction really, really need our support to stay viable and during the construction. Although I'm hearing lots of good things, we still need to do what we can. My question was, as part of our Business Thrive program, what we're officially calling it, have we done something where we go to some of the major dense populators in the downtown to kind of maybe hand out flyers to say the businesses in Midtown and to frequent them? In other words, I just know that the folks maybe in the B of A building or the old Porsche building or the courthouse, lots of folks go to lunch and with their friends every day or once a week. And just to remind them of all the great lunch places that are open, which then kind of opens the door to some other surrounding businesses. I just think there's an inexpensive way to kind of remind everybody of the great businesses in the Midtown area to not forget during construction.
Michael Moreno, RTC Public Affairs Manager. That's a good suggestion, Commissioner. That's not a really big challenge for the businesses, though. What we're hearing now is that a lot of our outreach and promotion, it was suggested that we're preaching to the choir, to people that come to Midtown already, and we need to go outside those boundaries. And so the Midtown District Association is developing an advertising campaign to do just that. Primarily using billboards and in the outlying areas to bring people into Midtown. And so we will support that initiative as best as we can. We're in constant communication with the Midtown District Association and many of the businesses, and it's probably safe to say on a daily basis. And so, we're always receiving phone calls and text and ideas of things to try. And so we've got a toolkit that is overflowing with lots of ideas, and we're implementing them as best as we can and when it's feasible. But at the same time, we're working closely with those businesses so that they have a buy-in into what we're trying to achieve and working collectively to be successful together.
Good, good. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, looking for a motion to accept the report? We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thanks, Jeff. Okay, General Administration 6.1, legal issues. Dale.
Just a really brief update on the RTC versus Lagomarsino Stack 2 Holdings lawsuit, which is the eminent domain lawsuit you are all familiar with to acquire some of the property interest necessary for construction of the Pyramid McCarran project. Trial in that case concluded last week. The judge took the matter under advisement, and so we will await his decision. And I just want to thank some of the RTC staff that helps us out with trying cases. In this instance, Scott Gibson, who's the project engineer, and I think Scott may have left, but he had the thoroughly enjoyable experience of testifying at trial. And also Brian Stewart, who's the director of engineering, who helps us out a lot in the effort to try cases and the eminent domain area. And the other thing I wanted to let you guys know is that, as you already know, the RTC versus Bella Vista Ranch trial will start November 26th, so the Monday after Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Other than that, that's all I
Okay,
have.
questions or comments for Dale? Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll move on to number 7. This is public comment time. Anybody in the audience wishing to speak at this time? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the commission. Member items. Anybody? Mr. Hartung.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor, what I would like to do is, as you know, there's been a request to the city of Sparks for some flashers on Bering out front of Reed High School. That is in the sort of heart of District 4. I would like to ask RTC staff to allow my $10,000 for Public Works funds to be utilized in that. And then, Mr. Mayor, if there's anything left over, if you need to, they've already collected some money, and that may be enough to get the project done. But I'm happy because I know that you have a lot of things to do with your funds throughout the city, and so I'm happy to fund that project.
You know, and I would just like to ask you to hold off on that for a minute. We're right in the middle of litigation, or we're still investigation, rather. And we'll get those signals in, those light crossings in. We don't want to start anything until after the investigation is completely finished, just to make it right. Okay? I would just ask that you hold off on that. You've made aware that you want to do that. I would do the same thing, but we may not have to do that.
Understood, but I know you have now wider requests, and so I
Okay.
want to make sure that.
Appreciate it, really, really
You know,
is.
that gives you the opportunity to do some other things as well.
Are there any other member items? Mr. Lucy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Once again, Mr. Hoffman, we did mention that the update meeting with NDOT and Washoe County will be on December 5th. I don't believe we've identified a location yet, but we will, or have we?
I believe it's, I don't know, for the record, Bill Hoffman, NDOT. I think it's an HOA. I think they have a location, and unfortunately, I don't have that. I think they have selected a location,
Okay.
though.
Well,
I could be wrong. I'll follow up on my end, too,
Okay,
Commissioner.
well, we'll follow up with staff, and I just want to make sure that anybody who's listening or out there in the audience, that we will be disseminating that information as soon as we have that available to you. But that December 5th meeting, I hope to be that's going to be beneficial. One thing I would ask staff is that Mr. Gibson, if we could do it, I know in the December meeting or probably in the January meeting, is have a brief discussion here with the board in regards to, by that time, we'll have an identified, hopefully a list of BDRs to Commissioner Jardin's point, issues that are related to obviously transportation, social issues that could impair transportation, or enforcement, i.e. public safety from NHP and different things like that. I'd like to see what those BDRs are and what we can anticipate coming into session, and so that we can work with our lobbying team and both federal and state lobbyists to identify some of those issues going into session. So, thank you, Mr.
Mr.
Chair.
Gibson.
On that. Mr. Chairman, on that note, too, I would put a formal request to Bill. The RTC would like to be on the State Transportation Board agenda in February to come and give our sort of twice-a-year update. Of course, the new governor and the new lieutenant governor of the new State Transportation Board will be seated. Actually, that'll be their second meeting, I think, potentially. But we'd like to put that request in.
We're not sure. So for the record, Bill Hoffman at NDOT, we still need to reach out or have the new governor's staff reach out to us. So there's still a few steps left, but we will definitely.
My assumption is you'll still have a State Transportation Board meeting in February. So
Yes, but we just don't know about January right now, so.
the second thing I'd like to do, and I was remiss in this in my director's report, I'd like to recognize Judy Tortelli and Jessica Dover. They're two new additions to our engineering staff. And then Derek Campbell, who's with our facilities maintenance crew. Derek has left the meeting to go out and maintain our facilities.
Stand up if you would.
Judy and Jessica will both many of you may see them in your respective entities' halls as they go to meetings with your staff. So anyway, just welcome to the RTC, and we'll have, enjoy yourself. And that's all I have.
Mr. Hartung.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll just lay this on the table now. I know it's going to take some time in our next budgetary cycle, but what I would like this board to entertain is increasing our discretionary funds for these kinds of public projects, because there's always a cover for a bus stop, a crosswalk, some flashing signals. There's so many things that we can directly do in our areas, in our districts, in the place that we represent, and the money just doesn't go far enough. It gets used up very, very quickly, and so I would ask that we have staff come back to us and entertain an increase in that, because it is a way that we can reach down into our communities and make a difference when we identify a need. Thank you.
Mr. Lucy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I just missed this briefly, but as most people noticed today, we are a member board of only 4, as we had lost one of our members in last week's election, Mr. McKenzie. Commissioner McKenzie served on this board for some time, and so I would one, thank him for his time and service on this board. He did he was quite an advocate for the North Valleys and the projects up there. But if we could bring something back, some sort of a recognition for him, I think that would be appreciated.
Good call.
Yes, we actually do provide a plaque and recognition of service for previous commissioners. So.
We want to be able to roast them.
Yeah.
Well, he has to agree to come back. That's part of it. But anyway.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, for me, I know we just did this about a month ago, but Thanksgiving is next week. And I want everybody to have a safe holiday, drive safe, take the bus if you have to. We have them. And December 1st is the Sparks Hometown Christmas Parade. If you can make it, it's always a good time. We have a huge crowd there, and dress warmly. But thank you so much. Enjoy the holidays. Christmas is right around the corner. Black Friday is a week from today. So without objection, we are adjourned. Thank you.